Our home, our house is not well, and I'm sick. I'm sick, but I'm looking after the kids.
Well, I guess this story would start in my mid-20s at the height of apartheid in South Africa. I came out of the military and I started studying and working. I was proud of what I did for my country, and then met the Lord in such a radical way, and directly after that made this incredible discovery of what was happening in my own backyard. I resigned from my work. We sold everything we had. I took a backpack and I started walking through Africa. In a town in the north of Zambia, Mufulira. I arrived there again 9 o'clock at night. I got out of the taxi and there was a woman that met me there. She took me into her house. I shared my story with her and her husband and her family. And the next morning they took me into a village. I remember at the very first hut that I came to, that the girl of about 10 years old, she stood on her toes trying to strip leaves off a tree. There were 2 other children. The other child was about 6 and one of the children was still crawling. The child couldn't even walk yet. And they said to me that this girl of 10 headed up that house. She was a child-headed household. That child, I was told afterwards, when she stripped those leaves of the tree, she took that to cook that for them to eat that night. And when I walked away there, I just remember asking God, just tell me one thing. If that child that was still crawling, if that child has earache tonight, just an earache, who's going to care for that child? At the end, these women, I can't remember if it was 6 to 10 women, took me into an old Catholic mission station. The leader, she looked me in my eye and she said to me, we want you to go and tell our brothers and sisters.
We are dying.
I met a woman, early 20s, her name was Florence. Skin and bone, and she was lying on a grass mat on the floor. Next to her sat a little girl, just clinging to her mother's arm. And there was another girl that was about 6 years old. There was no food whatsoever in that hut. I asked her if that was her only children. She said no, she's still got a girl that's 12 years old. And that girl, I asked her where she was, and she said she went into the community to go and do anything to find food. But I knew I had to get Florence out of that shack because she was super vulnerable there. And so we started looking around and we found an old house in the community. The roof was ripped apart and there was a hole in one of the walls, but the owner said we could have it if we could fix it and pay him rent. I got the building team and we fixed that house. Somebody even gave us a double bed. It was awesome. I will never forget the day when we got Florence and the 3 daughters moving into this house. But I wish that story ended there. During the winter that came, Florence became very sick. When the landowner heard that Florence became very sick, critically ill, he told her that they had to leave immediately because he didn't want somebody to die in his house. Florence was so weak that she could not walk. And her daughter, that was 13 at that stage, had put her mother on her back and she tied a blanket around her and she carried her mother on her back with the 2 little sisters holding on, and she went around the community begging for people to take them in. Rose, the very same volunteer that took me there the first time, heard about that. And she found them eventually. It was about 9 o'clock that night, freezing cold, and she found a little mud hut where she could place them. Florence died that night in that mud hut. Hands at Work is to mobilize the church in Africa, to mobilize people from outside Africa to join and to take hands. People just with compassion, people that are just prepared to say, I don't accept that. Whatever skills I have, whatever I can do, I can prevent a Florence to die like that. We believe the churches in Africa is the answer to the problems we face in Africa with AIDS. Every village, I've never been to a village that don't have a church. We should mobilize the church, and this is the time where we should break the denominational barriers down. We should get the churches in the villages to work together, to come together and to first of all accept responsibility for the widows, the orphans and the dying, according to the Word of God. One of the biggest things is that your church buildings are standing empty from Monday to Saturday. Their churches could be used. It could be used where meals could be prepared for child-headed households to come to the church and to have a meal every day. The challenge we have to the church outside Africa is we're not interested in how clever you are. We're not interested in how many things you can bring here. We ask you to bring Jesus. We ask you to come and touch people's lives. One of the very important things here is that Hands at Work and our projects in Africa don't want churches just to send money. It's very important for us that we want them, the people, to get involved. We want churches to come and serve and be part of what's happening, sharing and joining that project, because many of the churches outside Africa are struggling to rationalize and to understand Christianity in the life that they live in. Everything is provided, everything is safe. When they come into Africa and they understand what's happening here and they come in as servants, they go back with a new understanding of who Christ is and what role they, as Christ followers, could play. When Hands at Work gave birth, one of the toughest questions we asked was the following. There are amazing organizations doing fantastic work. Why should we start a Hands at Work? We want to reach 100,000 children by 2010. But we don't just want to reach 100,000 children. We want to reach 100,000 children that would not have been reached did we not go to those places. This is a pandemic. This is serious. 180,000 new orphans every month in Sub-Sahara. That's what we speak about here.
My name is Gertrude and I'm 20 years old. Our house is not well, and I'm sick. I'm sick, but I'm looking after the kids.
This is not about multitudes. Yes, the house is on fire, and that's why we need many people to be part of it. But we want to tell stories. We want to say, let me tell you about somebody's life that I'm part of.
I'm suffering since our mother passed away.
In this corrugated little shack here, I'm sitting with Gertrude, a young girl in her very early 20s, very sick, staying with her two brothers, 17 and 14, facing the struggles on a daily basis. Yes, we want to reach 100,000. But numbers don't mean it. The 100,000 is to remind us that there are many Florences, many Gertrudes, many people that want to connect with us and get to know us. Yes, we want to reach 100,000, but we want to reach them one by one.
My name is Nwanda Lame. I am 13 years old. I live in Swaziland.
My name is Obem Tengwa. I live in Zimbabwe. I am 13 years old.
My name is Kumbuzo Smelana. I'm doing grade 6. I am 15 years old.
My name is Alan Mafta. I live in Zimbabwe. I am 12 years old.